As part of our ongoing exploration of Denon's AV receiver lineup, we will be testing a model from their more affordable S series. This review will focus on the Denon AVR-S960H, which has 7.2 channels and was the first unit released with a single HDMI 2.1 port. Although this initial batch of receivers had an HDMI 2.1 bug, some interesting developments have occurred since then that we will discuss below. There are a couple of Denon's S-Series and X-Series models that have very close pricing and specs, making it increasingly difficult for consumers to decide which one is the best and which has what differences. As we test this one, we'll point out the similarities with corresponding units and what you need to pay attention to. But before we get started, let's review its specs. The AVR-S960H features 7.2 channels of built-in amplification with 90 watts of power per channel, supports Dolby Atmos and DTS-X in addition to the standard virtual and upmixing technology like Dolby Surround, DTS Neural X, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization, and DTS Virtual X. Comes with the basic version of Odyssey called Odyssey Mult EQ Auto Calibration System, and comes with plenty. Considering that Denon's AVR-S960H promises a good performance-to-price ratio, as well as a wide range of extras and features, it's surely another solid release. In terms of audio formats, we get the usual, so no real surprises here either. There's been a lot of complaining about some 2020 models, so let's take a look at what's changed since back then. Besides supporting Dolby Atmos and DTS-X object-oriented audio tracks, the receiver also offers upmixing and virtual technology for covering specific room configurations and all needs. As far as upmixing technologies are concerned, we have Dolby Surround and DTS Neural X. These upmixers convert stereo and legacy mixes so that they can be played on all the speakers you have. As for virtual tech, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization and DTS Virtual X virtualizers can create sounds that originate from virtual created speakers around your room, even if there are no physical speakers. As you can imagine, these virtual technologies are not as good or accurate as real physical speakers, and they are very much room dependent. Furthermore, they are often overprocessed, something we have never been fond of. If there is anything missing here, it would be Auro 3D along with the Max Enhanced, as both are kept only for the higher tier releases in the X series. The AVR-S960H offers 7 channels of integrated amplification with each channel capable of pumping 90 watts of power. In general, you should not be fooled by this number, as manufacturers always give ratings with 2 channels driven, which means this number decreases significantly when all 7 channels are active. With the supported channels, you can go all the way for a 5.2, 2 channels audio setup with 2 dedicated overhead speakers for maximum immersion. A single subwoofer and 2 Atmos ceiling speakers were placed at the center of our viewing area for our 5.12 setup, as we do with all our tests. As part of our first movie test, we chose 4K UHD Independence Day Resurgence, which features a stunning Dolby Atmos mix. 2 elements are very prominent in this mix: its massive panning effects and its earth-shaking bass. This 960H plays both of them very well. In our 360 degrees field, the immersion bubble dot was created through us in the middle of the action with great directionality and precision. As always, the front was the most active. All dialogue was kept separate from the rest of the sound effects, with the center channel, which performed all the heavy lifting without getting tired. All dialogue was very distinct and easy to understand, and at no point did we feel that the voices of the actors overlapped with the other channels. Nevertheless, the front action was not only precise, but also extended nicely in all directions. As a result of the depth and pleasing extension we got on the sides and above the screen, we got a very large sound wall in front of us. As for the overhead layer, things were fine. Even though there were only 2 channels available for Atmos effects, we did feel that precision and clarity were a bit reduced. When panning overhead effects were active, it was sometimes difficult to determine where they were heading. In particular, if you've heard Dolby Atmos with 4 overhead channels, this can be quite apparent. Nevertheless, the receiver managed to make the best of what it had. Surround activity was constant. The swarms of fighter jets will give you a good idea of the surround capabilities of the S960H, as well as the never-ending laser and gunfire, as well as other highly kinetic objects moving in space. As a whole, the surround performance worked well with the front channels, giving us the kind of immersion we wanted. On the low end, such a film provides plenty to enjoy, and the Denon never failed to deliver. It will give your subwoofer a run for its money and make you a few angry neighbors with the roaring fighter jets, the big alien ships raining havoc over major metropolises, the constant explosions, each one bigger than the last, and the Harvester Queen destroying everything in its path. In 4K UHD, Jurassic World uses a great DTS, X-Mix, and we switch gears. Despite its many explosions, this film opts for a more atmospheric performance with perfect ambience in the jungle scenes and during action, and an overall balanced output. This time around, the center channel is a bit more active, but the main channels are once again the stars. There were times when the surrounds and Atmos channels were very active, such as during the underground scenes, which provided a sense of an expansive world in which the film is set. In spite of the fact that surround effects aren't as apparent here, they were exactly what we needed to get a clear picture of what was going on behind the scenes. The atmospheric effects were carefully handled and were meant to complement the action without making them too obvious. In order to provide the necessary extension above our heads, they were subtle as they should be, to make these creatures feel as if they were their real size. The low end was extremely important. They roared in a natural tone, and their footsteps felt heavy and menacing. The Denon is an amazing speaker when paired with a good quality subwoofer, such as the SVS SB1000 Pro we used in this review. As we close our review, we couldn't be more pleased with what we heard. It is clear there are better AV receivers out there with more power and better sound output, but they are also much more expensive. You can get a lot of value for your home theater system for an affordable price for the AVR-S960H. Besides MP3, WMA, and ASC files of low quality, the receiver also supports FLAC, and WAV files up to 192K HE at 24-bit, as well as DSD up to 2.8 and 5.6 MHz. And the receiver's USB port was used to stream a few music tracks in FLAC format in our case, as we always do in our reviews. For that purpose, we switched to a 2-channel setup, which is most preferred when listening to music. We always say that it is not just about how good an AV receiver is, but also about what kind of speakers you will pair it with to make sure you get the best sound. In terms of music, the receiver did well, and we did not notice any differences from other Denon receivers of similar price and category, including the S760H and the X1700H. It may not be their strongest point, but this was never intended to be. However, the S960H created an energetic front music stage that was well balanced throughout the entire frequency range. The receiver seemed to play it safe with what it could do, and we did not hear any irregularities that would throw the overall outcome out of balance. Despite the tight and focused mid-range, high frequencies were energetic, vocals were emotional, and bass had the necessary vigor and tempo. Our test showed that the Denon did very well overall, playing to its strengths without pushing too far. Getting the basics doesn't always require expensive hardware, and the AVR-S960H proves it very clearly. If you are the type of user who wants this for mixed use, and by reading this review this is probably the case, then it will handle all the music you throw at it with great care. The strength of these machines lies in their ability to offer high enough quality, no matter what the use, on a single package, no matter how they are used, which is what we always say about them. The Denon is trying to cover every base with so many units available, so many of them feel very similar in specs, making it difficult to choose the right one for your needs. And this one does just that with exceptional results. A better Odyssey system, custom integration, longer warranty, and a few other extras make the X series a bit more expensive. But they are only worth it if you really need them. In that case, the AVR-S960H will cover you entirely. We saw here today a very capable AV receiver with crystal clear audio output as well as good surround and Atmos performance. In addition, the unit is very affordable and comes with all the extra features you will ever need both offline and online. We will focus on two things as downsides. As far as HDMI 2.1 inputs are concerned, the initial units had a dreaded HDMI 2.1 bug, with a multi-HDMI input adapter and another adapter to solve Xbox Series X problems. Denon has provided solutions for both. In the case that your unit was manufactured after May 2021, you will not have to worry about any of these issues at all. Our second complaint is the archaic UI still being used and the cluttered remote. As we approach 2022, we have to update this control scheme at some point. If you don't care about some of the more advanced features of the X series, the Denon AVR-S960H will satisfy your needs. Although many 2020 releases had a rough start, including the Denon AVR-S960H, Denon worked hard to resolve all problems, and as a result, this 960H remains an AV receiver that we can recommend without reservation. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like it if you did. If you're new here, click the subscribe button. Wishing you all the best until the next video.